Welcome to Antares Podcast. Relax and learn.
All right, let's dive in, shall we? Today, we're heading straight into ancient Egypt. You know, a place where history and mystery, they just seem to go hand in hand.
It's hard to resist the allure, isn't it? Those pharaohs, those tombs filled with treasures, and of course that lingering question.
Oh, absolutely. The question of the curse. The idea that if you mess with a pharaoh's eternal rest,
you might just unleash something powerful and maybe not so friendly.
Right. And when you think of curses, you think King Tut.
King Tutankamon. Yeah, his tomb's discovery. I mean, it's got to be one of the most famous archaeological finds ever.
Definitely. And everything that happened afterwards.
Oh, that just adds to the mystery.
So that's where we're going today. We're going deep, deep into the Pharaoh's curse. We've got excerpts from the Spanish Wikipedia page, Maldición del Faraón. And trust me, these excerpts, they don't shy away from the mystery at all.
Oh, this is going to be good.
We're going to unravel the story, look at the strange events, and we'll even get into some of the possible scientific explanations.
Gotta have both sides of the coin, right?
Exactly. So imagine it's the early 1920s. Egyptology is this fairly new field, right? And most people, they don't know a whole lot about ancient Egypt.
It was a time when imagination ran wild. Pyramids, that's what everyone pictured.
Right, those towering pyramids. But by Tutankhamun's time, things had changed.
Yeah, the pharaohs, they were being buried in these elaborate tombs carved right into the Valley of the Kings.
Not those big pyramids anymore. These were hidden underground palaces full of treasures, intricate artwork. And in 1922,
boom, a British archaeologist, Howard Carter, funded by Lord Carnarvon, makes the discovery of a lifetime.
The intact tomb of King Tut. Can you imagine?
Stepping into a space untouched for over 3,000 years. I mean, Carter himself, he described looking through a tiny hole in the sealed doorway. He saw, and I quote, wonderful things.
Wonderful things, he says. Talk about an understatement. I mean, this tomb, KV62, it's still the best preserved pharaonic tomb we've ever found. A glimpse into a lost world.
It really is, but with all that excitement of discovery.
There were whispers.
Whispers of a curse.
The Pharaoh's curse.
The idea that disturbing a pharaoh's eternal rest?
It could have some pretty serious consequences.
Yeah. Some even say there was a warning inscription found near the tomb.
Really?
Although Carter never officially documented it.
Adds to the mystery, doesn't it? Was there an inscription? Did they keep it quiet? We may never know for sure.
Maybe not.
But we do know that things took a turn. And it started with Lord Carnarvon's death just 4 months after they opened the tomb.
An infected mosquito bite. Something so small, so seemingly insignificant.
But it turned fatal.
And at the same time, back in England, his dog died suddenly. And in Cairo, unexplained power outage right when Carnarvon passed.
It's enough to give you goosebumps, coincidence, or something more.
Right, and then the media got hold of the story.
Oh boy.
The newspapers. They went crazy, blaming the curse for up to 30 deaths.
30 deaths? Really?
Yeah. And even big names like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
The Sherlock Holmes guy?
The one and only. He was a spiritualist, and he saw the whole thing as proof of ancient magic. And Marie Corelli, the nominist.
I know her. She wrote all those mystical stories.
Yeah, she claimed to have this ancient manuscript, said it predicted what would happen if you messed with a pharaoh's tomb.
Wow. So their influence back then, it must have been huge. It made the curse seem, believable.
Absolutely. But even among the people working on the excavation, there was a sense of unease. Arthur Mace, the guy who struck the final blow to open the tomb, he died not long after.
No way.
Yeah. And then there was Sir Douglas Reed, the radiologist who x-rayed Tutankhamun's mummy. He got sick, died suddenly, just months later. All these important figures, all connected to the tomb.
Like pieces of a puzzle, but a really dark, creepy puzzle.
Right. And it gets weirder. They found a small lesion on Tutankhamen's cheek when they did the autopsy.
Wait, on the mummy?
Yeah, and guess what? It was in the exact same spot where Carnarvon got that mosquito bite.
You're kidding.
Nope. Chilling, isn't it? Of course, there's no scientific connection, but
it makes you think. And the newspapers, they ate it up. They even reported Howard Carter's death before it actually happened.
Talk about adding fuel to the fire. The curse was becoming bigger than the facts.
But through it all, Carter, he didn't buy it.
No, he called the whole curse a stupid notion. He said the ancient Egyptians, they focused on blessings, not curses, for the afterlife.
It's a good point. You'd think they'd want good vibes in the afterlife.
Right. And get this, a study later found that only 8 out of the 58 people who were at the tomb's opening died within the next 12 years.
So, not exactly a death sentence.
But still, why did so many people connected to the tomb meet these, unfortunate ends?
It's the question that keeps us coming back to this story. And it gets even more interesting because decades later,
the curse, it seemed to reappear.
It did?
In the 1960s and 1970s, they moved some of Tutankhamun's artifacts for exhibitions in Europe. A few of the museum directors who okayed the moves.
What happened?
They died not long after.
Seriously. The timing it's uncanny. And then there's actor Ian McShane.
Oh, yeah.
He broke his leg in a car accident right before filming a movie about Tutankhamun's curse.
Like the curse was sending a message.
Don't forget about me.
Exactly. But there's one thing that often gets lost in all of this.
What's that?
Howard Carter himself. He lived for 17 years after they opened the tomb. Died of natural causes at 64.
Yeah, if the curse was real, you'd think he'd be the first to go.
Right, and his final words about it, well, they're pretty telling. He said, anyone who believed in the curse was missing all spirit of intelligent understanding. He believed, just like he said before, that the ancient Egyptians wanted blessings, not curses.
So where does that leave us? We've got these strange events, coincidences, deaths. We've got Carter saying it's all nonsense.
The weight of ancient beliefs versus, well, logic.
It makes you wonder, is there something more to this story? Or are we just drawn to the darkness, letting our imaginations fill in the blanks?
That's what makes this so fascinating, right? It's right there on that edge, between logic and the unexplained. I mean, you can't deny the weird coincidences, those deaths, all those strange details. But actual proof of something supernatural, that's still missing.
It's like we're peeking into this dark room. We can hear noises, but we can't see what's in there?
Exactly.
So how do we approach this, from a more, rational point of view?
Well, we could look at some scientific explanations. One theory is that these sealed tombs, they might be full of toxic stuff, like fungi or bacteria that have been growing for centuries.
Like opening up a can of worms, but way worse.
Exactly. And some researchers think maybe they put those pathogens there on purpose to stop grave robbers.
Makes sense.
There's no proof that something like that caused Lord Carnarvon's death, but modern studies have found some pretty dangerous bacteria and mold in those old tombs.
So it's possible that something in the tomb itself
could have played a role in those deaths, absolutely.
And then there's the gases, right?
Oh yeah, like ammonia and formaldehyde. They build up in those sealed sarcophagi.
Nasty stuff.
For sure. Dangerous, but they have a strong smell, so.
You'd think they would have noticed that.
That's a good point. I mean, Carter and his team, they were so meticulous, documenting everything. It's hard to imagine them missing something that pungent.
Right.
So if it was one of those more obvious things...
What else could it be?
Maybe it's a mix of things. The environment, maybe some people were already prone to getting sick. Or maybe the stress, the anxiety of it all.
It's like we're trying to solve the puzzle, but we're missing some pieces. And the thing is, the idea of a pharaoh's curse, it existed before they found Tut's tomb. It was already in stories, books, folklore.
It was like the perfect setup. People were already primed to believe because the idea was already out there.
It's almost like they willed it into existence.
It shows the power of, believing in something, how our culture can affect how we see things.
You see what you expect to see, right? Makes you think, what if they found Tut's tomb at a different time? Would the curse have been such a big deal?
That's an interesting thought. The early 1920s, I mean, the world was changing so fast back then. Social upheaval, new technology, people were searching for answers, for something to believe in.
And this curse, it gave them that. Mystery, intrigue, it tapped into those primal fears, the unknown, and our fascination with ancient Egypt.
It's a reminder that stories, they can be just as powerful as the events themselves, shaping how we think, what we believe for generations. But in all the hype, let's not forget about Howard Carter.
The man who found it all.
His dedication, his meticulous notes, his refusal to believe in the curse, it's pretty amazing. He spent years surrounded by all that ancient stuff.
And never wavered.
It's a good reminder that even when things seem unexplainable, we need to think critically, be skeptical.
It's almost poetic, Carter lived a long life, died peacefully at 64, long after the curse supposedly got all those others.
It's almost like he was proving a point, and his last words about it, they're worth repeating. All spirit of intelligent understanding was missing from those who believed in the curse.
He called it a stupid notion, and he was convinced that the ancient Egyptians, they wanted blessings, not curses, for their afterlife.
He wanted us to look past the sensationalism, to consider the facts, the history. Sometimes the simplest explanation is the right one.
But even then, even with logic, there's still that little bit of doubt. Are we really okay with simple explanations when we're talking about the mysteries of ancient Egypt?
It's that doubt that keeps the story alive, right?
It does. So, as we wrap up our deep dive into King Tut's curse, where do we land? We've looked at the history, the science, the culture, the power of belief. But the question remains, is there really a pharaoh's curse, or are we just letting our fascination with the unknown I don't know, mess with our heads a little.
It's a tough one, isn't it? I mean, we've got history, science, human psychology, all mixed up in this story. We can look at the facts, explore all the possibilities, but in the end, it comes down to what you believe.
It's a question that just won't go away. And even with all our logic and reasoning, the mystery is still there.
I think that's the real power of it, you know? Even now, with all our fancy technology and science, there's still that part of us that wants to believe in something, well, bigger than ourselves.
We're drawn to the mystery, to the things we can't quite explain.
Yeah, and maybe that's okay. Maybe the curse, if we can call it that, it serves a purpose.
What do you mean?
It keeps us curious, keeps us asking questions, keeps us connected to the past and all its mysteries.
Makes you think. So the next time you hear a story about a cursed object or a haunted house or something, don't just brush it off.
Yeah, lean into it a little, look at the evidence, think about it, and come to your own conclusions.
Because sometimes the best mysteries, they don't have easy answers.
Exactly. It's all about the possibilities.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into King Tut's curse, we leave you with this.
Keep exploring, keep learning, and remember, sometimes the most interesting truths are the ones that defy logic.